Hello, this is Valerie Aiello, and you're listening to Idea Diary. Thanks for coming back to my office and hanging out. All right, today I'm going to go over another Ries and Jack Trout marketing book. They've got a lot, y'all. I don't think I'm going to do all of them, but I'm going through a few. I'm learning. There's some repeat stuff, but I think so far the last two both had little aha moments, and this one has a couple, I think, worthy things to know. So, this book is called Marketing Warfare, written in 1986, and they're basically comparing military strategy to marketing strategy. Your competition is the enemy, and the battleground is the customer's mind. Some of the main things they talk about is that meeting customers' goals and needs are not enough to win as far as the marketing game being number one. And you have to shift your focus to beating the competition. And your campaign needs to be against competitors unless you're in the number one spot. Their method is kind of against my mind, my mindset. Normally I don't think it's competition as a bad thing. I think of it as a good thing, and you work together. But I'm realizing that my mindset is probably based on a local, regional, small, medium sized company. When you get into the bigger fish, it's not like that. It's more like a warfare game. What they had said in previous books is that there's really only space in the market for two main companies, and the rest are all kind of others. And you can't remember more than 7 companies' names that are in the same category. They like to talk about categories a lot and categories being important. So, for example, most people can't name more than 7 dog food brands, if they can even name 7. But 7 is usually the max for any category, for any brands, for people to remember. So, the battleground's trying to get your spot to be number 1 or 2. The book talks about 4 types of warfare. One is defensive warfare. So, you're not really attacking, you're kind of just holding your position, and the only one that can do defensive warfare is the number one spot. Basically, the number one spot doing defensive warfare is holding their ground. They are attacking themselves by improving their products, and they're meeting all moves that other competitors are doing. So they're watching, but they're not attacking people. Another type of warfare is offensive marketing. So this is for the number 2 spot. Their full frontal attack is what they say. When you're the number 2 spot, you're going to imitate everything the number 1 spot does with product, design, and price. And you're going to understand what the strengths are of the number 1 spot, and you're going to find all the weaknesses of the number 1 spot, and you're going to attack those weaknesses with your marketing. There are some other things that they had talked about. They talked about an envelope strategy, which I don't fully understand, but I guess that is surrounding them, kind of copying and coming at them with all sorts of angles of marketing, attacking their weaknesses, and by just trying to compete at a serious level. I guess it's sort of like a surrounding method. And then there's a leapfrog technique that you can possibly jump over the number 1 spot by using technology. And overall, for all the categories, when you implement technology and the new stuff, you're probably gonna win. It's good for everybody. So, whatever stage you're at. So, the number 3 types of warfare is flanking. It's kind of a hard thing to understand unless you really know actual warfare. So they're using it as a metaphor. When you're flanking, you must do it in a surprise attack way. They can't see it coming. And once you choose your flanking method, you're going to put everything into that. At the same time, you're going to be watching out for your blind spots. If things aren't going well, you've got to be able to pivot that flank because you're taking a chance, but it might put you up to number 2 or up to number 1. An example of a flanking is Canon cameras knew that Xerox only had big giant printers for offices and they didn't have home printers. So Canon doubled down on the home printer. And I guess that was like a flanking move. I kind of see that as starting a new category, but maybe, the way they explain it, people will interpret it differently. But to me, it sounds like starting a new category and trying to win in that category that's similar, a subcategory. Another example of flanking was when Japanese cars started to make small cars, and I guess like a Volkswagen Beetle. When the cars were getting big and huge in the 50s, and then Japanese, German, all these import cars started doing small, cheaper cars to kind of win the American market. And then American cars tried to compete with the import cars, and they ended up losing even more of the market. So that I think that's an example of flanking a number one spot off of the top. So, and then Smirnoff was a top vodka company, and then Absolute made their whole new branding campaign. And I don't know if they went to the top, but they definitely made a name for themselves as being like a something you would order subconsciously, not even knowing what vodka to order. So those are flanking warfare examples. And this is for small to medium companies. And the fourth type of warfare is called guerrilla warfare, which is for local and regional. And what's interesting about that is that guerrilla warfare is a time to work together with all the other companies that are in your same bracket. And eventually you work together trying to promote each other. And then eventually you might get to the top. And then that's when you start knocking each other down game happens. But in guerrilla warfare, you find a small segment of the market that you can control. So if like you're the only pizza shop in whatever neighborhood, or they might have a Pizza Hut and all a chain pizza places, but you might be the only custom unique pizza place like for miles, and so you capture that market. And in a guerrilla warfare marketing type, you never start acting like a market leader. You have to be totally different and unique. And you have to be ready to pivot because if things are going wrong, you got to be able to switch it up, which I think is good for everybody. I'm really into the pivot. So, yeah, you just target a segment that's small enough to defend. So, you might be number one in a small region locally, and there's money in that, and that does matter. Some of the fundamentals and strategy, just in general, that they talked about is that an aggressive campaign and being number one and trying to be like, I don't know, just kind of a bully about it, aggressive is not a sign of a good strategy. And there's no such thing as a good or bad strategy. It's all strategies are different, which is what I I think is what makes marketing a little bit difficult is because there's a million ways to do the same thing and a million different ideas and approaches. So, a strategy is going to be totally unique to any company. And let's see, another thing that I found they kind of talk about you have to have the most money to win. I feel like that's kind of a marketing strategy for marketing firms because when you think of record labels and stuff, they can't spend someone into being famous. They can put millions of dollars into an artist and crickets can happen. So I really am not a big believer in money. It makes success because there's so many places that doesn't happen. But I do understand that it's probably, for the most part, probably 80% true. Characteristics of an effective marketing campaign, just in general, is number one, having flexibility, which could be pivot or switch up your marketing strategy if it's not working. Number two is mental courage. So when you know something's right, but it's not working, it is a long game and you got to stick with it. You got to figure out how to boost the morale of the employees when things aren't going well with mental courage. Number three, boldness. And that is just when you see an opportunity, take action. Number four is knowledge of the facts on the front lines. And this kind of goes into the next book that I had read. So you want to know the customer's problems and their habits and their skills. And you don't want your CEOs and your executives making the decisions. You want to make the decisions from the customer side, and then you want to find a good plan and then talk the experts at your company, the top brass of your company, Once you figure out your plan from the bottom, starting with the customer, then you got to talk in your bosses into the idea because they're not in touch with the same problems and issues and whatever it is that's going on for the customer. They don't really know. So, number 5, good luck. So, definitely luck has something to do with it. Fate, possibly, it just is what it is. I've had a lot of success at times and I've had no success at times. And it was the same brain doing the same work, different scenarios, but sometimes it is what it is. I've learned to let go and not be hard on myself and just kind of try again. So, number 6, knowledge of the rules, knowing the basic theories of marketing and know it to a level that it's in your subconscious mind, which is why I'm doing this show and why it feels like it's a little bit repeating, but I'm in it. I don't know. I feel like Ries and Trout, they've got some knowledge. They're sharing it with the world. I mean, basically all their books is like a marketing, I don't know what you'd say, like a degree. I feel like my degree was in communication design, which was a graphic design art director degree just from a university. I didn't really learn a lot. I learned most of what I know now from actually working. So I feel like if you want to know marketing, just read all their books or all the cliff notes to all their books and write it down, make your own show, keep your notes easy to find, and get it into your brain. It's not that hard. All right. Well, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.